Welcome to UGC's E-Pathshala lecture series on computer science. The paper is on visualization technique and this is our last module wherein we are going to look at case studies and visualizations. Some of the learning objectives of this module are this module tries to introduce the different case studies that are available in data visualization. We learn about the techniques applied in the various case studies. We will also learn about the principles of effective data visualization. So, the first case study that we are going to look at is a visual DB, which is called as visDB. So, what is this visDB as such? The visDB system developed at the University of Munich is a sophisticated tool for visualizing and analyzing large databases. The key idea of visDB system is to support the exploration of large databases by using the phenomenal abilities of the human vision system, which is able to analyze visualizations of mind size to large amount of data very effectively. So, this is an example visual that has been shown here of the visDB system. We can see various frames of the visDB system. Now, we are going to discuss in detail about each and every visual that has been shown here. What is the goal of this visDB system? The goal of the visDB system is to provide visualizations of large portions of the database. It allows properties of data and structure to become perceptually apparent. Distinguish the visDB from other approaches. Two aspects distinguish our visualization techniques from other approaches. First, the number of data items which can be visualized is much higher than in other approaches. In general, this technique uses each pixel of the display to represent one data value. This means that the number of data values which can be visualized at one point of time is only limited by the number of pixels of the display. A second unique feature of technique is that the generated visualizations are query dependent. Query dependency means that not only the data items fulfilling the query are visualized, but also a number of data items that only approximately fulfill the query. The approximate results are determined by calculating the distances for each of the attributes and by combining them into an overall distance. The relevance factor. Approximate results are determined by a relevance factor. The relevance factor of a data item is obtained by calculating distances for each selection predicate and combining them. The more the combined distance, the less the relevance of the data points as such. There are various visualization techniques that are applicable in visDB. 5 different visualization techniques are available, namely the spiral, axis, grouping technique, parallel coordinates and stick figures. This is the kind of arrangement of windows for the 5-dimensional data representation. As you can see, the first window shows the relevance factor, then we have the window for all the 5 dimensions, and we can see one data item approximately fulfilling the query is being shown here. Similarly, one data item fulfilling the query is being shown using the green arrow. So, the arrangements of window for displaying the 5-dimensional data is represented here. Mapping 2 dimension to the axis. It is possible for the user to assign 2 attributes to the axis and the system will arrange the relevance factor according to the directions of the distance of the data points from the selection predicate. With this method, it is possible to provide better feedback to the user. However, we may not be able to use the display efficiently in some cases. That is, some quadrants may not be used fully while others are being saturated with the data points. So, this is a 2D arrangement of one dimension wherein we can see the positive as well as the negative values. wherein you are going to represent dimension I in the x-axis and dimension j in the y-axis. This is a two-dimensional representation of the data. Grouping the dimensions. The pixels corresponding to the different dimensions of one data item are placed in one area instead of distributing them in different windows. This will require more pixel per dimension per data item and may provide more useful visualizations for datasets with larger dimensionality. This is an example of grouping multidimensional dataset. This is a grouping arrangement for 5-dimensional dataset. So, we have the relevance factor along with all the 5 dimensions which are being represented, grouped and are arranged from a 5-dimensional dataset. Interactive GUI of this visDB. If you look at the interactive GUI of visDB, the graphical user of interface of visDB system allows a direct interaction with the data. Examples are, we can interactively change the query ranges, we can highlight corresponding pixels in different windows, we can use a projection of visual representation to specific color ranges, we can access the attribute values that correspond to some specific pixels. Applications of visDB. This is used in molecular biology project to find possible docking regions by identifying sets of surface points with distinct characteristics. We can explore several other data sets including a large database of geographical data, a large environmental database and a NASA Earth observation database. Dynamic querying is also possible using this visDB. Selecting the value ranges of the variables via controls with real-time feedback in the display is an essential and important quality of this visDB. The principles of visDB are the visual presentation of queries components, visual presentation of the results, rapid incremental and reversible controls, selection by pointing and not typing, immediate and continuous feedback, and it supports browsing details on demand. Tight coupling is also supported by visDB. The query components are interrelated in ways that preserve the display invariance and reveal the state of the system. Output of queries can be easily used as input to produce other queries. Eliminate the distinction between commands, queries, input and results, tables and output. Examples are interactive scatter plots. Multiple names given for this are Spotfire, FilmFinder, Starfield. Example is a FilmFinder. In this FilmFinder, we can filter with immediate visual feedback. This is a Starfield scatter plot. So here we can see that this is a visual tool wherein it is possible for me to select to find a home as per my requirements. So here I can reset all the ranges, I can dynamically change all the values and fix up all the ranges so that I can fix up the area in which the location, the area, the amount or the rent, everything can be fixed up by the client, and he can look for various houses that are available for rent in a specific location, which is called as FilmFinder. So the DC FilmFinder dynamic query system enables the user to adjust the sliders for location, cost, number of bedrooms, home types and features. The results are shown as points of light which can be selected to generate a detailed description at the bottom of the screen. So this is a FilmFinder text screen which is shown here. Based on the values that are being selected, the text is shown on the screen as such. The next example is the FilmFinder, which is also an interactive scatter plot example. So in this FilmFinder, we can see the color coding that has been given to represent the genre of the movie, the year at which the movie has been released is shown on the x-axis, the popularity of the movie is shown, the ratings of the movie are also represented, the director, actress, actor, title, everything can be represented using the sliders. So using these sliders, the clients are able to look at various kind of movies that are being released within a specific time frame. We can look at who are the actors who have acted in that movie. We can search for actors, we can search for movie, we can search for year and things like that. This is a good example of using dynamic query, which uses interactive scatter plot technique to display the data as such to the end user. So this is another screenshot from the FilmFinder, where we can see some of the values are being set, the actor value is being set, and the director has been specified as all, the length of the movie is specified, the ratings are given, and we have the various genres of the movie within the year that are being released within certain year from 1960 to 1990 are being shown on the screen as such. Hierarchical Clustering Explorer, or HCE, is an interactive visualization tool for exploring and analyzing multiple attribute dataset. The tool was developed by the Human Computer Interaction Lab at the University of Maryland by Jinwook Seo and Ben Schneiderman. The HCE, which is a Hierarchical Clustering Explorer, applies the hierarchical clustering algorithm without a predetermined number of clusters, and then enables the users to determine the natural grouping with interactive visual feedback, dendrogram and color mosaics, and dynamic query controls. The various components in HCE are dendrogram, which allows users to interactively explore hierarchical clustering results. Users can drag the minimum similarity bar to interactively separate clusters by cutting the branches of the dendrogram that meets the bar. There is a feature framework which is called as rank by feature framework, which enables the user to systematically explore 1D and 2-dimensional orthogonal projections of the original multidimensional data using easy to understand visualization such as histograms and scatter plots. So this is an example dendrogram that has been drawn and which is being visualized as shown below. This is a rank by feature framework. Many improvement possibilities in HCE, as well as some errors in user databases. For example, in the case study, had to add an option to exclude missing values, not to distort the real relationship because missing values were encoded as zeros here. So this is one kind of disadvantage that is available in the rank by feature framework. So here we can see how it is ranking with respect to the feature, and that is being shown in the form of a visual here. So this is a screenshot of the HCE. We can look at the linked views, we can have a look at the dendrogram navigation, we can also compare multiple dendrograms. There is a detail view which is shown here, minimum similarity bar is shown here, scatter plots are shown in the right hand side. There are about 7 available tabs which are available in this. Next one is the interactive exploration techniques, which include dynamic query controls, using which the number of clusters and level of detail can be controlled. We have coordinated display, wherein bidirectional interaction with the 2D scattergrams are possible. Overview of the entire dataset, which is coupled with the detail view. Visual comparison of different results, that is, different results are provided as the results by different methods. These are the various dynamic query controls. Filter out the less similar genes. By pulling down the minimum similarity bar, we show only the clusters that satisfy the minimum similarity threshold. This helps the user determine the proper number of clusters, and it is easy to find the most similar genres. We can also adjust the level of detail in dynamic query controls by dragging up the detail cutoff bar, and we can show the representative pattern of each cluster. We can hide the detail below the bar, and it is easy to view global structure as such. In the coordinated display, 2 experimental conditions for the x and y axis. The 2-dimensional scattergrams are limited to 2 variables at a time and readily understood by most users Users can concentrate on the data without distraction, and bidirectional interaction between displays are also possible. This is an overview in a limited screen space. What if there are more than 1600 items to display? Compressed overview shows the averaging adjacent leaves. It is easy to locate interesting spot. So here we can see a scatter plot view as well as a detailed cutoff view, the minimum similarity view, and the number of clusters which are shown in here. Then we can also perform a cluster comparison. So different distance metrics are used and different linkage methods are being used. Two dendrograms can be compared at the same time. They show the mapping of each gene between the two dendrograms. It is a busy screen with crossing lines and easy to see anomalies. We can also incorporate visual design principles like usage of sound visual design elements like line, form, shape, value and color with the principles like balance and variety to make the visualization both more inviting and easier to read for trends and comparisons. This will become particularly important as we take our linear metaphor visualization to the next level. They can also bring in more dimensions to the visuals that are being created. Once we have good data and a sound underlying spatial metaphor, it is time to take into account the complexity of the metaphor. Based on our knowledge and research, we can come up with initial look after the simple linear metaphor visualization. How we can do that with upstick in sales is just not a seasonal trend. That is an example from a store sales. The total sales are up, but as a new store layout succeeded in improving the performance of some departments that were struggling before. Are we succeeding in getting more customers into the store and not just selling more to existing ones? Are customers shopping more departments and buying a more diverse mix of items? These are certain example questions that are to be asked on looking at the store sales analysis report, which is shown using a simple linear metaphor visualization. Asking these kind of questions is a great exercise to begin talking about visualization, which will lead to the next level because they prompt us to add more dimensions to the visual that allows more viewers to explore and understand the subject in additional angles and in more detail. There are a variety of solid techniques that can help achieve this additional dimensionality. We can add small multiples as small repeated variations of graphics side by side allow for quick visual comparison. Wherever possible, scales should be kept the same and the axis of comparison should be aligned. Adding some small stacked thumbnails to our chart, the main one allow a comparison of sales trends and the one before that. We can add layers to the existing visual. We can add extra level of information while preserving the high level summary data. We can make a graphical representation more flexible and useful. We are going to break down the top line of the total sales into departments. The resulting stacked area chart shows the sales from appliances department has increased as a proportion of the whole, but media department sales has not improved much. So these can be inferred from the visual that is being shown here using the addition of layers. We can add axis or coding patterns. Another way to get more dimension in a graphic is to add additional patterns for coding information, such as varying the shape or color of points on a plot based on a variable, an extra axis in space alongside an existing one or in a new direction. It can also be useful for showing new variables, and it's important to be careful with this approach as it can add clutter, but when used sparingly and with good design principle, it can increase a graphic's usefulness. We can also combine metaphors. So far, we have used a linear metaphor for a visualization. We want to add a network metaphor to show connection between product categories and purchases. A pair of circular relationship or chord diagrams showing the snapshots at the beginning and at the end of the time period under consideration can help compare the connections. Like a pie chart, each product category is assigned a section of the circle by percentage of total sales, but center of the circle is going to be hollow. If a majority of purchases containing items in one category also included items in the second category, A line is drawn to that second category. The line width is based on the average proportion of both the categories in the mixed purchases. The increase in these visual is shown here at the end of the slide. The increase in these chord lines from the first to second diagram suggests there are indeed more purchases that cross departments since our initiatives went into place. This relationship data would be even better if we could see it at any chosen point in time. For example, to see what effect, if any, the layout change alone had before the promotion had started. As our graphics increase in complexity and sophistication, we need to think more carefully about how to deliver the data to the end user. So we need to consider new delivery methods for delivering the visual that has been created to the end user. The point of any visualization is to be viewed by the right people in the right context. Few examples: we could enable scrubbing through time or drilling down and zooming out for a bird's eye view, seeing new data live as it becomes available, or even manipulating future variables to watch different scenarios. So finally, let us look at 5 different principles for creating effective data visualization. Be open to discovering new insights. Effective data visualization enable the user to discover unexpected patterns and invite a different perspective of the data. Think big but start small. Users needed quick solutions to a very painful process that was costing time and lost business. Design for your user. User journeys and prototyping help to define the user goals. Prototype to identify the needs. A small cross-functional team to be set out to find a solution based on 3 equations. Will the customer use it? Can we build upon it? Does it meet the business needs? The final principle is obtain feedback early and often. User testing is about going beyond what your users tells you to uncover the needs both met and unmet. So if you look at the 5 principles, the principles are discovering the new insights, think big, design for the user, prototype first, and obtain the feedback as early and often from the end users. So these are certain example visuals that are being created using the above 5 design principles that has been studied. The one color dominates here. Here we can see they are brewer colors. Difficult to distinguish in this figure. They are recolored with the brewer palettes, and this is murky in nature, so here it is being recolored. This is another example which is called as a sortable table or a matrix. Here it is in the form of a stacked bar chart which is lying in a horizontal fashion. We can see for each and every city they have shown the information, the ratio layout with respect to high, average, capacity and other things in a horizontal layout method. So in summary, if we could have seen, we have looked at the different case studies in data visualization in this module, especially in the case studies that we have looked at the techniques of interactive data exploration. We have also looked at what dynamic queries are and how dynamic queries are helpful in generating different kind of visuals to the end users. And at the end, we have looked at the 5 interesting principles which are very important for creating effective data visualization. Thank you.